Hello there and welcome back. So today we talk about Elektron Octatrack again, and I had an idea to make a video that can be helpful, especially if you are just starting out with this instrument. So I am mentoring a few people, and most of the time we build together a setup following what is their needings. And most of the time, what happened is like after the lesson, I got some message that, hey, I can't hear anything, the audio is not working, there's some problem in the Octatrack. So that was happening to me a lot, and that is keep happening to me because this instrument, for as much as incredible and powerful can be, it can also be the most frustrating piece of kit ever. So it happens many times that after a performance or while I'm performing, something doesn't work, and most of the time it's audio not passing through, and sometime I just freak out, I don't know what to do. Sometime I realize very right away what is wrong. But what I start doing is putting down a checklist of things that I do in order to realize what is the problem. And if you are starting out, if you are a beginner, that could be a very useful tool to have. And whenever there's something wrong, you just go through that and you will find the error. I'm sure there's way more way to screw up the audio or things with this instrument, but these are the few points we will go through. It's usually what happened and how you can fix it. So before going through all the points, as usual, I want to list a few ways you can support my channel and help me out in my mission of spreading good vibes. You can subscribe and share this video. You can sign up for my Patreon, where I usually had more in-depth review or more content or exclusive content. Or you can buy using the link, the affiliate link that you will find below. So that said, let's go. In this is a very basic setup that I'm using now, but it's similar to the setup that I use in my other table where I have the full live rig. And I have my SH101, SH01 going inside track 1 and 2. You know the setup, there's video that I did before, but right now I have on track 5 a kick and a few effects going on. So very simple thing. Whenever things doesn't work in the Octatrack, especially if it's audio, and that's what we are talking about here. So let's say you screwed up something and you don't know what's happening and you play. The first thing that you have to check is this. So if you set up all the MIDI correctly, and that is another, it's another thing, check the MIDI and see if the channel is right. This is channel 15, this has to be channel 15. The trigs are there. Say that is good. Then when you press play, you need to see this LED going on. So if the LED is not going on, then means that no audio is coming in the Octatrack, hence you will not hear anything, and you can do whatever you want on the tracks, but you will fail. So if that is the case, if there's no audio coming in, then it means that you need to work on the MIDI part and see what's wrong there. Of course, most of this problem come when you use this as a sort of a glorified mixer, and you use audio coming from the outside. So any synth, drum machine, whatever. So if you use internal sample, then there's less thing to check, but it applies for that track too. So this is the first thing. We check out that the audio is coming in. So then we start checking on our track what happened. So usually the first things that I go check is that the track is set on true, of course, meaning that it has the in related to the in. Now the SH go in A, so check that is A, and A is lighting. Check that the volume in this page is on. Usually I put 63 because for the gain staging, for what I know and for what it works for me, I always use 63 here and then level to the max. So this is the first step. In A, volume work. First check. And that might work or not. In this case, not work because there's one other things that you have to do that is what usually confuses more people. You have to put a trigger on the track to open the audio engine. So this, I don't know really why, but if in your track there's no trigger, there's no way to hear anything. The moment you add a trigger, you don't hear anything because I put the volume down. That's another thing. Here we are. So no trigger, no sound. Trigger, sound. Think of it like you are opening the gate. So as soon as the machine feel the trigger, then everything works. Once the trigger is open, you can remove it, but as long as this will play, the audio engine is on. And another weird thing is like once the machine has been triggered once, you can stop and you can play again and it will work. The only way to make this not work if you press 2 times the stop. That is a sort of reset of the machine. It will reset that. It will reset if you have a recording trigger. If you have many other things, it will reset. So it's a sort of panic, MIDI panic button. When you press this, all the audio will stop. Even if there's, for example, if you have a long feedback, if you press once, the feedback will keep going. But if you press twice, it will kill it. All right? So this is the check. So we have the light coming in, the volume on the source and source correct, and the trigger. The other things that can go wrong is like you have the level of the track here at 0. And this can happen when, let's say, you did a performance before, you know, you might have screwed up with your MIDI controller, who knows, and that's another thing. So that has to be in the checklist. The other is on amp page, you have another control that is volume. Now, this machine is blowing my mind for all the control that you can have on your gain staging, because you have the mix where you can add gain to the AB. I usually leave it 0, but you can add gain there, and that's one first step. Then you have on your source another gain level there, volume. Then you have the level of the track itself. Then on the amp page, you have another volume. So basically, you have a 4-way to change the volume, not talking about the effects that you have another possibility to change that with effects. So yes, it's complicated, and I don't know why, but it is what it is, and you have to comply with that. So getting back to our checklist, check both source, volume, level of the track, and volume on the amp level. Volume on the amp level, I usually leave it at 0 sometimes because I want to have, usually my main is at maximum. So I use this sometime to push the track in the performance if I want more presence. Okay, so say that this solve all of your problem and you have the audio. Sometime what can happen is that you were performing and you have effects happening. And then you turn, you power up again, and the last, what you say, how you set up the effects is still working. So say that you play and audio coming in, all the volume is good, and then it's the filter, for example. This happened to me many times because maybe at the end of a track on a performance, I was filtering out everything. Could be the low pass or the high pass, whatever, the opposite end. And then, of course, I finish my performance, I turn off the machine, then I turn on again, and boom, I don't know what's happened. So it could have been the effects. Sometimes it's easy to understand. In this case, you see bass is at the maximum, so here we are. What you can do, it's press FX clear, and it will reset the effects. And then if you press it again, it will do undo if you want to get back to that setting. But that's an easy way to understand if the effect is screwing up. What you can do that in the amp page too, because sometimes also the hold and release could be a problem. Because if hold and release is at 0, here we are, you don't hear anything. So even in this case, if you have a weird situation here, it's all messed up, you do press the page and clear, and here we are, fast way to reset your thing. There will be another fast way, and that will be my last tip, so be sure to follow me. Next step, the scene. This one confuses me, not confuses me, but tricked me many times. So that's why I always be sure that I have one scene, that I usually is scene 1, that is completely blank, that there's nothing happening. Because if you start having many scenes, sometimes I use the cross volume where you can put like minimum here and say this is gonna be at the minimum, but here it works, right? It's because in this scene, in this case now 1, you put the cross level here, and you would see that only if you keep A pressed. So you go here, you see the level is working, there's everything working, so far the checklist is working, what's happening here? And you cannot believe how many times these things, like during a performance or you know, when there's more pressure, I couldn't figure it out what happened. So now I always have one clear scene, and you can clear a scene pressing scene button, the number of the scene, then clear. Here we are. So I always keep scene A clear. So whatever it happens, I know that if with the fader here, pressing scene 1, I'm fine. Okay, that said, another few way I got tricked. Track 8, if you set up as a master and the level on the master is at 0, of course you won't hear anything. I have mapped the master on my controller, so sometime during a performance, you know, I can fade out, and then when I turn in things, I don't know what happened. Check the level there. Another thing could be of course, effects. If you have a filter on this one, that sometime I use. Same as before. Say I filtered out everything, and now I don't know what happened. Okay, reset the filter. And the last things that can happen here is when you use the freeze delay. Now, with the freeze delay, you have the chance to do all the weird things that everybody likes. But what happens is that sometimes you have to have the send at 1. Check other video, there's other video about how to set up the machine to do this trick. But if send is at 0 and you just start, nothing will happen, because it has to be measured at 0 to let the audio pass without any effects working. And this just if you use the freeze delay trick. But this happened to me many times that, like, I don't know why it was at 0, I start and then I spend 5 minutes trying to figure it out. Again, clear the effect. No, in this case, if you clear the effect, it's gonna be bad because it will clear also the other setting here. So just be mindful that send has to be at 1. Okay. So these mostly sound all the way that things cannot work. Another way could be if you have I'm using always track 1 for my true track and track 2 as a neighbor track. So they both have to be active. Otherwise, it won't work. It works if track 1 is deactivated. I don't know why, because probably the audio go through track 1 into track 2. So these work, these won't. The other things, it could be that your tracks are in queue. And it depends what queue you set up. Now I have the queue that it just send the audio through that, but also through main out. So if you set up queue that it kills the audio from the main out, then you need to be sure. And you will see if it's queue, if it's blinking. And I will write down, I will prepare a list for my Patreon where all these things are listed down, or you can write by yourself, so you can print it and have your checklist and know what to do. Again, this is for a beginner, I'd say, but it's super useful to me too, because when I panic and I don't know what to do, having these step-by-step to do, it saved me many times. So let's say we cover all the wrong thing. How can we set up a sort of safe net that we press a button, actually a couple of buttons, and we go back to the original state where everything works? This you do with a part. As much as I don't use part a lot, because I have, you can have 4 parts, and each part can have different setting of machine, all the parameters that you can put on the tracks. You can have basically 4 different versions, 4 different parts. It's incredibly powerful, but I don't use it a lot because I don't need it, but just so you know it. What I do though, part saves all the effects, source, amp, all the pages setting are saved in parts. So let's say that we prepare our template project and it works, and this is how we want the thing sounds basically. So say you want to have a little bit of delay, a little bit of reverb. Let's say this is what you would like to have as your starting point. And I do that all the time. For each project, I like set up my basic sound. I set up all my scene. I set up this on scene 1, whatever. So what I do now, I go in part. Actually, no, I do function part. This open the part edit screen, and I do save all usually. Now my part is saved. This means that whatever I will do, let's start doing weird thing, right? Okay, let's say during a performance we arrive to this and we don't know what we did because we touched so many things. Then pressing function and Q, boom, go back to your original state. This is an incredibly powerful and life-saving feature that can literally take you back from a situation where you don't know how you get there. And it also happened, let's say that you have all the volume and thing gone, and oh, there's no audio. There's no audio. Here we are. There's few things that are annoying about that if you use an external controller, because the knob of the controller will be at a certain place, and then you reset the part, and if you move that knob, the setting will jump to that. There's a way to save that using the MIDI in, so that both the machine, MIDI in, MIDI out in the controller, so both machines communicate that they know what's happening. But yeah, I usually use reload part only when I don't know what happened. Or you use the machine, same like having the control all that you have in the other Elektron machine. So you do a mess. Things sounds weird, and then reload part, and you're safe. So this is it. This is my checklist, and I hope it's useful for everybody that got frustrated. I said this many times. I owned the Octatrack I think 5 times before committing to it. So I bought it and sell it, and I, felt the power of it, felt how fun could be. But all the time I just give up because I didn't want to learn. I didn't want to just go step by step with it. Now, since last year, I really start loving it, start understanding, and it's like a sort of building a modular thing. You need to decide how you want to use it, because it can be super confusing. You can do so many things with it. Then you just give up. Instead, if you start appreciating it with the, for example, with a system like this, you can have a lot of fun. Just loading a few drums. And this will be enough once you set up all the scene, all the effects, to just have fun. So with my student, the people I'm mentoring, I always say, just take your time, spend a full week just playing with these 2 instruments. Don't add more stuff. Just get comfortable in what's happening. Just troubleshoot when things doesn't work. And at least like we did today, it's a good way to just not get frustrated, angry, and want to throw this machine on the wall, and then step on it, and then sew it and burn it. I did that. Not true. Actually, I did it then on a night of a full moon. It lived again and tried to kill me. All right, because it has it has feeling, and it has its own will. There's that other thing. Sometimes this machine won't work because it decided not to, and that's it. Then you give up. You have to. You turn it off, and you use the turn off and on, like it's a PC. Okay. After this beautiful digression, I want to say you thank you, and feel free again to share, to become a Patreon member, share some love, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.